Welcome to Fat Cat Productions of News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa. And today is March 14th, evening edition, because this was so special that I needed to do this in the evening. We did episode 48 this morning. This is episode 49, and it will go up hopefully by midnight. We're talking about two things only here. Tonight, the vote to stop the shutdown of our government and what was involved with that. And then an interesting story I saw on, I took it from Yahoo, and I don't usually take too much from that, but it was a CNN article on Musk and what as CNN put it, was his paranoia about Social Security, Medicare, and funding for, he calls, illegals. And while CNN said they weren't illegals, and that his whole idea of Musk's gripe about having illegals collecting Social Security, Medicare, and other government entities and entitlements that they're not entitled to. And CNN went to great lengths to say that Elon Musk, that no illegal is getting any of those benefits. And I'll show you why that is not true. And this is one of the big contradictions I have, and how the news is slanted and why it's slanted. But first we're going to go with the Democrats who sided with the Republicans on averting a shutdown of the government. And as reported today, I had said that Schumer had taken the position of having the Democrats approve of President Trump's funding agenda for the next 6 months. And so this isn't really a year, but 6 months, which is a good start. And what this has now shown is not truly, like AOC is saying, it's a all-out rollover on from the Democrats on Trump, and that they should fight Trump at every turn. And the moderate, which is Schumer's not a moderate anymore. He was, but he's not anymore. But did realize that if the government did get shut down, that it would be disastrous. And it would be the Democrats who would be blamed for it. And they could there would be no chance in the midterms. None whatsoever. So by Schumer acquiescing to Trump's demands, at least for the next 6 months, there'll be stability in the government, and it's working now. The big difference is this new budget and some of the agreements stops the Democrats from going after Trump on a legal basis. And that is what has tuned about 39 of the Senate's Democrats to go off the rails. And one of them, of course, is our good friend Schiff, who I make no bones about calling him a piece of shit. He truly is. He is not a person that I would ever trust. But let's just go into what had happened. So the Democrats got on board, 10 of them, with the Republicans and passed this budget. And the senators who did it was, of course, Chuck Schumer, John Fetterman, Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada. And they were the first ones to jump on the bandwagon to say, we got to pass this. Hate Trump, love Trump, doesn't matter. It needs to be passed. And then they were joined by Dick Durbin, Brian Schatz, Gary Peters, Maggie Hassan, Christine Gillibrand, Gina Sheenan, as well as Angus King, an independent from Maine, who joined the Republicans in the Senate to pass this financial agenda of the president. So the legislation stripped away numerous funding directives, giving Trump the power to reallocate money as he saw fit without fear of judicial interference or intervention. Same thing as interference. So the vote in the Senate left 37. I said 39. I apologize. 37. But Rand Paul of Kentucky wanted the measure to codify Trump's cut to foreign aid. So he wanted it to go in there and actually say foreign aid is not going to, that it was going to be discussed with that. Schumer tried to get a 30-day extension from the Senate to and try to hammer out a little bit better deal. Not having any of that, fellas. This is what happens when one party takes control of everything. And as I stated over and over again, I do not like the idea of one party, be it blue, be it red, to control everything. Because that's when shady things can happen and things get rubber stamped and they just get pushed through. And that's not how our democracy is supposed to work. But this is what, it's been blue, it's been all red before. This is not a first. This is not, oh no, we've never experienced this. We have. We got over it. And, most of the House Democrats were against Trump. No matter what, we're going to do whatever it takes to defeat anything that comes out of Trump. If it's white, it should be black. If it's black, it should be white. There is no gray. You either try to defy everything Trump says and tries to legislate and push through, or you're against democracy. So now they're back to that stance now, and Schumer came out and said, we're doing this so we don't lose our democracy. Hey, Schumer. Democracy was never in question. No one has lost any rights. The Constitution has not been changed. You want to scream what Rosie O'Donnell is screaming, that she'll only move back here when everyone's rights. No one's rights. No one lost anything. You have all the same rights that you had under Obama, all the same rights you had under Clinton, all the same rights you had under Biden and Trump. That nothing's changed. Nothing. Those rights are all there today. And as I spoke in today's podcast earlier today, I said that the only way Democrats to survive is by working with working with President Trump. The Democrats have nothing left in their bags of tricks. It's game over. The reality is setting in now for the moderate Democrats. They lost. The left will fall on their swords, and the midterms will bring even further losses. And yeah, hey guys, you're going to have to play ball. And you might not want to play ball, but you're going to have to play it. Because the only way you'll get the attention of President Trump is by being in the room with him and might be able to persuade him that, like I said, you want to cut 30,000 people. Why don't we cut 15,000 now? Go through there. You can do it. You are the president. You can do that. You could cut all 30 if you want to. But let's just cut 15. And in 90 days or 180 days, we revisit it. And if things look like you could cut more, well, let's take 7,000. And in 6 months, revisit it, and then, take the other 8,000 that you want. Now you got your 30,000, but we know that the cuts were spaced in a manner where it became feasible that the government still is doing the role. Now, where Donald Trump is absolutely correct with, if these people aren't working in the offices and no one's checking on them, and there's no checks and balances on what anyone is doing, and it really wasn't, then what do you need them for? What do you need someone in charge of rubber bands, in charge of paper clips, in charge of paper, when you could have one person do all that job? Why do you need 4 people? And these are legitimate business decisions. In the business world, you'd be looking at it, because in a business, you don't print your own money. In government, you print your own money. So the accountability aspect, I don't have to be right all the time. I just got to be right 51% of the time. And I don't have to account, in essence, to the shareholders, as long as I make 50 plus 1 happy. Where in business, you can't do that. You got shareholders, you got the board, you have people you have to answer to. And in our government, we have forgotten that. You know, Truman, the buck stops here, which was a silly, hokey type of thing, but he was just saying, hey, I'm the president, and if it's crappy from the bottom, it's going to be crappy at the top. And if it's crappy from the top, you know which way it flows. So I think that the Democrats are going to have to come to their senses and realize that this is a whole different government. And it does work under the Constitution. Trump will push it. And like I keep saying, you go, some of the stuff he can do by just waving his hand. But there's other stuff you cannot do just by waving your hand. There's systems in places to address it. And I don't think what he's doing with Doge is such a great scare or an intrusion into anyone's privacy. If you're getting money from the government, you have no privacy. One agency can look at another agency for the most part and see what's going on. And that's always been the case. And that's called checks and balances. And you can't be all for the checks and balances on one side and then go, well, you can't do it over here. Doesn't work that way, folks. So I think that Doge is a good thing. I think they'll find lots of problems, and they already have. That needs to be, common sensely looked at. And that takes me, to saying that, yesterday you had Schumer call all GOP people bastards. And I keep repeating this over and over to Democrats out there. Stop with the name calling. Stop calling us stupid. Stop calling us uneducated. Stop saying we all live in trailers. Stop that. That is only going to dig you guys deeper in a hole that's almost already to the point where you're not going to climb out of it. And we're not stupid. We're not ignorant. Where we live is where we live. To say that all Republicans are gap-toothed rednecks that, live in trailer parks. Honestly, what's wrong with living in a trailer park? Unless you're an elitist. Are you an elitist? That think, that everyone should live in brick houses? Not everyone can do that. Not everyone can put roots down there and say, well, I work in defense, and, when this job goes to Alabama, that's where I got to go. So I can't have a house. I got a trailer I could rent. And, when the job goes, I go. And some people just can't afford a brick and mortar house. And yet you sit there and you, with your noses, look down at everyone. And like Trump said, how'd that work out for you guys? Think that was a good move? You think sitting there and going, you're all stupid. I went to college. You know what? I went to college too. And so, I worked with people that didn't go to college. And they were some of the smartest people I've ever met. So, all college just means is that when you're younger, you could follow a path. You could follow direction and complete a task and come out at the end. There's really, other than learning stuff that's already in a book, and you could pick up a book and read it and learn it. All that college does is just gives you the opportunity to do it and not having to worry about, for the majority of people, not everyone, because a lot of people work and go to college. So I'm not saying that, college is all fun and games and, you go there, but college gives you the opportunity for most people to not have to worry about the work end and, eating and having a roof over your head and keeping warm. You pay a tuition, you pay room and board, and you get food, and that was the whole process. So you didn't have to worry about that. You just had to study and learn. But there was a majority of people that had to work and learn and worry about feeding and eating and doing everything else. So I don't take away from those people that have done that. Republicans, Democrats, liberals, people that don't vote. Doesn't matter. You go to college, you put your time in, and hopefully you learn a trade, or you learn a path that you want to follow. When in the day you only went to college to become a teacher, a scientist, a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant. There were just, those were professional jobs that you needed a college education for. But you could work in a factory and you could make cars and you could build homes and do all that without a college education and still do very well for yourself. And you get these Democrats that keep saying, oh, you're stupid, you're uneducated, you don't know anything. I went to school, what do you know? And you're looking at them and you're just going, hey, pal, I've been working 35 years. Not only can I tell time, but I could tell you how that clock works. Take the plate off of it, take everything off of it. I could tell you how it works. You might not be able to. Tell me how it works. Oh, the big hand. No, you're telling time. Tell me how it works. And a lot of them can't. And then they start screaming at you, and then, of course, the cursing, and then, because the more you shout is the more you're right. I know, Bob, you're looking at me going, you do that to me all the time. You're right, Bob. But then I am right. I'm saying. So, this shows me that the Democrats, or at least 10 of them, are coming to their senses, though some of them were already there. John Fetterman, you're preaching to the choir, he knows. That you're going to have to work with who's ever sitting in the chair. Who's ever in that White House, you're going to have to work with them. Because if you don't work with them, you're not going to get anything done. You'll just be screaming through the gate at people. It doesn't get anything done. You only get stuff done and accomplished by working on the inside. And it's the inside game. I learned that from a very smart union man, Dominic. The only way you do it is from the inside, not the outside. Not looking into the window. You got to be in there. So that is the difference of being able to tell time and tell you how the clock works. And that you only get through experience. And you can't learn that in school. You got to learn that in the real world and see it applied. So I've learned a lot from people in the union who made me a much better person and made me think, and also from management who made me think outside the box to get things done in a labor management relationship. So it taught me a lot. I'm humbled by it because it really is a humbling experience. And one of the things that I learned, and it was hard to wrap your head around it, was you don't know what you don't know. And once you put yourself into that mindset, then you could start learning stuff. But if you think you have all the answers, nope. And it's nice working as a team and being able to bounce things off of one another without any oh my God, that was the stupidest thing I ever heard. But, in the thing, this is why that won't work. You're not the first one to think of that, but this is what you have to think of. And it was always amazed me when I'd read contract language and I go, all right, let me look in 4 contracts back and see what it looks like. And the advent of computers just made that wonderful because I was able to take all that stuff, scan it, turn it into a Word program, and then scan each page of the contract and each article and each division and chapter and compare it. And then you could see all, yellow, all the changes in work rules, all the changes in management rights, all the changes from one contract to another contract to another contract. And then you could see the evolution of the contract that you're looking at. And that was always amazing. And then when you could take that and then you started showing other people, you go, hey, why did this change? Because, and then you'd find notes and you'd find out why things happen. And Democrats are learning that. And they've always known that. Democrats always knew that. And the Democrats lost their way. They lost their way. And the Republicans have been able to chip away at those faults with the Democrats. And the Democrats lost it when they just didn't represent the people anymore. They represented a class of people, but they didn't represent the people anymore. And that, that became their downfall. They have the possibility of changing that. But I'm not sure they have the commitment to do it, or the stones to do it anymore. I think they've been so misaligned that there's no coming back from it. That they're going to have to start a new Democratic Party. Just like the Republicans did. How soon you all forget about the Tea Party and everything that they wanted. Where are we today, folks? Step back and observe. All right. Enough with that. From CNN. Elon Musk's paranoid conspiracy theory about Social Security explained. So CNN took and you could look at it, an interview that is going to take place, that has taken place with Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, king of the podcasters. He's more than that. Joe Rogan is a really smart guy. And they dissected what Elon Musk has said about that the illegals are crippling our federal government by draining Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and other federal government-funded programs. And CNN said that's ridiculous. No undocumented person can get any of those benefits. And you know what? They're absolutely correct. CNN is 100% correct in that. Right? Wrong. And I'll explain to you and why Musk feels the way he does. And he said to Joe Rogan, this is why the Democrats want to destroy me, in which he explains a cynical view of the U.S. political system where he says Democrats are plotting to use entitlement spending such as Social Security, Medicare, and disability payments to lure undocumented immigrants, he calls them illegals, into the U.S. in order to take over the American government for all time. Now, Elon Musk is 100% correct in what he's saying. Because we see in blue cities where they want to say anyone can vote. An American citizen or any person living here, documented or undocumented, has a right to vote. If they're living in that city or that town, they have a right to vote. As some states allow that. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? Non-citizens voting in our elections. Documented or not, the right to vote is a right of all citizens. Citizens. So. And in it's CNN said it's certainly true that spending on these programs has the country on an unstable fiscal path. But Musk isn't talking about them as legitimate programs that need reform. He's talking about them as fraudulent schemes, something that would surprise the tens of millions of American citizens who rely on them. So what Musk is saying is that these aren't programs of people getting it, that this is actually a fraud that's going on. And the point that Elon Musk is making, where the CNN article definitely says, points that the illegals can't get Social Security benefits. But President Biden, in June of 2024, even before that, June 18th, many of those persons who were here illegally was giving them protection status, PIP. And under what they called a parole status. Now that goes back to the 1950s, where the Department of Immigration could give someone who is undocumented, but they showed up on our shores from Cuba, or in this case it was Hungary during the Hungarian Revolution, where a lot of these people escaped from Europe and just came over here and they never filled out immigration papers. They just showed up at our door and said, "We're here." And in Europe, really, is where they did it. The government stepped in and said, "We're going to allow X amount of these Hungarians in here." And then they said, "Well, what about these other countries?" And it got expanded, because that's what happens. A dam doesn't burst with just a colossal, the whole wall falls down. It starts with a crack, and then more and more and more, and then it collapses. So these were good policies back then, but they went unchecked. So what has happened is, under the U.S. immigration law, the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, when they started that, George Bush Jr., to grant parolees to certain non-citizens to allow them to enter the United States on a temporary basis and remain in the United States for specific reasons. And parolees under immigration law is very different than in the criminal context of what a parolee is. It's of course, parole, you're out on parole at the prerogative of a parole board, and you must report. But this is the same way, but through immigration, but not the same context. So they use the word over again and try to make that like we're watching them, we're on top of it, when that's really not the case. Immigration and the INA, I'm just going to go, authorize the Secretary of Homeland Security to exercise discretion to temporarily allow certain non-citizens to physically enter or remain in the United States if they are applying for a mission but do not have a legal basis for being admitted. So, what was that discretion? Sky's blue today. Everyone in. Now, DHS may only grant parolees if the agency determines that they are an urgent humanitarian or significant public benefit reasons for a person to be in the United States, and that person merits a favorable exercise of discretion. Grants of parolees are made for a limited period of time and often to accomplish a discrete purpose, and individuals are typically expected to depart the United States when that authorized period expires, unless another form of status or relief is conferred. So they come in and they go, you can say 6 months, we're going to figure this out. But in the meantime, you're here, you're not documented, but you have a legal status to be here for 6 months. At the end of that 6 months, unless we tell you otherwise, you got to go. So what happens to those individuals who receive a grant of parole or allowed to enter the United States? They are not provided with an immigration status, nor are they formally admitted into the country for the purpose of immigration law. So that's an important aspect there. And this stuff, I mean, you have lawyers that just specifically deal with this language. An admission occurs when an immigration officer allows a non-citizen to enter the United States pursuant to a visa or another entry document without the limitations of parole. So, of course, if you came in with papers and everything, and everything checked out, yeah, you come in. The distinction between an admission and a parolee is a significant one under the immigration law. Now, so what they're saying is that if you were immigrating here and you had all your documentation papers and everything was set And they know why you were coming here, and everything was pre-approved, and welcome. But if you were a parolee and you showed up at the borders, please, please, if I go back to that village, they're going to hang me because I voted for the other guy and they knew it, and they're going to kill me. They can make a decision right there to go, okay, we're going to give you parolee status. And we know you're here and blah, 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 but you don't have an immigration status. You're not waiting. We got to determine what's going on here. June 18th, 2024. When everyone started to say it's legal and these undocumented people are becoming a problem. And there's no rhyme or reason to what you're doing. You're just letting everyone in and just making things up as you go along. We can't have this. And of course now Trump is putting pressure about, the illegals and eating pets and everything else. So Biden creates PIP, parolee in place, allows people to apply for green cards without leaving the U.S., meaning that if you were here already, for whatever reason, you could now apply for immigration status with basically no questions asked on how you got here or any of that. You just had to meet urgent humanitarian reasons or provide you can provide a significant public benefit, whatever that means. So the humanitarian parolee allows beneficiaries to temporarily enter or remain in the United States for a defined period, which can be anything from a few days to several years. Individuals who are granted parolee are able to apply for work authorization if necessary to support themselves while in the United States. So those are people that don't have a sponsor. I'm not living with my cousin. I'm not, my grandma and grandpa here, that I'm going to live there. So there were exceptions that made sense. They were common sense. And while a humanitarian parolee is granted to people who are already inside the United States, this is now known as parole in place, meaning someone who has been granted humanitarian parolee includes parolees in place, counts as having been inspected and paroled into the United States under federal law. This means the parolee who are eligible to apply for green cards through their spouses will be able to do so by applying for an adjustment of status within the United States without having the risk of triggering reentry bars by leaving the country. So spouses were allowed to come in if they could show that their significant other was here. And the parolee that was here didn't have to worry about triggering, the clock starts now again for you, and now you're out, and you have to come back in. So, even if someone's particular grant of parolee, including the protections from deportation and work permit that may be attached to it, expires or is revoked in the future, they are still considered to have been paroled into the United States under immigration law. So they stayed longer than they said, and we just hadn't caught up with them, but now it's all forgiven. This means that even if the new parolee program is struck down in the court or is ended by a future president, those who have already been granted parole in place under the program will still be able to be eligible to apply for green cards without leaving the country and risking separation. So their status of staying here expired. And they were told that after a year, 6 months, 3 years, if you haven't come back, we haven't settled all this, at that point, you have to voluntarily leave the country. And then you could reapply to come back in. Trump goes, no, they don't have, Biden said, no, they don't have to do that. So, automatically 500,000 people were given this blanket status. When this article was written, they didn't know what the status was going to be and how they were going to accompany that announcement. But the rules were the public doesn't know exactly who will be eligible for the new parolee program. However, the June 18th announcement specified that the new program will be available only to those people who have continuously resided in the United States since June 17th, 2014. Were physically present in the United States on June 17th, 2024. It's like crazy world. Have been legally married to a U.S. citizen as of June 17th, 2024. That makes sense. That I can get there. Entered the United States without admission or parolee and do not currently hold any lawful immigration or non-immigrant status. So that took away everything from that up. So it just entered the United States without admission. So that doesn't matter if June 17th, 2014. Doesn't matter June 17th, 2024. Doesn't matter if you're married to someone. Just entered the United States without admission or parolee and not currently hold any lawful immigration status. Remember that one, because that's the one that's going to go back to where Musk is saying. You have not been convicted of any disqualifying criminal offense. All right, I can get there. You do not pose a threat to national security or public safety and may merit a favorable exercise of discretion by immigration. Applicants will have to provide documents proving that they meet the above criteria alongside their application form and pay a fee. However, it's not known exactly what forms, documents will be acceptable at that time. Of course, it's only to people otherwise ineligible for permanent resident status, So this was, if you were ineligible, you now became eligible. So anyone that was, didn't have a status or didn't have a favorable status, you walk right in, you got the protection. You could apply and then, now that parolee, when it started in the 1950s too, was to take into effect of servicemen who married women or men in other countries, that they were able to come back into the United States. So this was German war brides, Japanese war bride, Filipinos, people who helped and assisted Americans during the war. They were given a leapfrog over everything. So the one little caveat in here was, for example, some individuals may be barred from adjusting their status to permanent residency if they were previously deported and then re-entered the country without inspection. Inspection. So if they're here and were deported and they're back here, well, why are we even having an inspection? Get them the hell out. Do you understand what Biden did? He truly went around Congress and our immigration laws to circumvent those laws. And he did not do that because my heart goes out to them, because they controlled Congress at that time. And they could have gone in there and fixed the immigration policy and then pushed it through the Senate to try to get it to go. And now they tried, and of course the Senate, said we're not having any of that because you were letting in, 1 million people a month, undocumented, on boom, just over, and boom, you got documented status. So, parole in place will give these individuals a genuine opportunity to receive the permanent residence for which they theoretically been eligible for years or decades, and allow them to work legally in the United States while waiting for their immigration visas to be approved. It will give a much-needed peace of mind and permanent solution not only for these individuals, but their U.S. citizen spouses and often their born children. So, what Elon Musk was saying was that by creating a classification of these people, you took illegals and made them legal. If you're a legally documented person here, you're entitled to all the benefits of a citizen. Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, anything the federal government offers a citizen, you are now entitled to, because it didn't matter. You were here on this date, you're golden. So when he's talking about illegals, it was like Biden saying, we don't have any murders in this country anymore because murder is now legal. It's not a crime to murder someone. Hence, we don't have any murderers. What's the problem? Look, I dropped the murder rate. Murder rate dropped down. Well, yeah, because you made murder legal. It's not a crime anymore. That's what the parole in place did. And anyone that says that that is not the truth is a fool or a liar. And what that did was truly circumvent Congress. And, we're screaming about Trump doing it. Well, this is what was going on with the Biden administration. And they got lots of people. And yes, I understand. People that were working here illegally, they were paying into the system. They were working for an employer. They were taking taxes out. I get that. I understand that. But what they did now is say it didn't matter. We're making anyone that came in here, legally or not, the strike of a pen. And that's what he did. That's what he did. And then put in there that a president couldn't undo that. That I have a problem with, and I think that will all get shoved down the tubes. And what you have now is people collecting Medicaid. And it's not Medicare so much that's the problem, it's Medicaid. And if you've ever known anyone that was on Medicaid, it's a wonderful source for our citizens. For people that, they're not eligible for Medicare yet because they're not 62 or older or 65, whatever the requirement is now for Medicare. So this went where nothing else would be involved. And this was the whole idea then of Obamacare, getting them off this and onto a private plan that was subsidized by the government, which was another benefit. And remember, there was a non-compliant fee you had to pay if you did not elect to have a medical program. And, that was a big Supreme Court thing. They said you can't do that. You can't compel people. The federal government can't compel that to go into, forced to take a private policy, or you get fined. Can't do that. Yet they tried, and this was all done for the immigrants. This was to get them so a Trump couldn't say, "You're draining our system." It's private insurance. Insurance company, they can give it out to people. So they were trying to wean these people off and get them onto another program, subsidize it, because we're subsidizing it for everyone, not just, illegals, everyone. And that was Musk's thing, where he said illegals, and they go, no illegals getting any of these benefits. And they're right, they're not. That's because Biden took their handcuffs off and said, you are now free. Murder is now legal. So we don't have any murderers anymore. That was the same logic. And Elon Musk is not paranoid. He's using facts. And those facts are just that. And you're trying to call this guy paranoid and trying to show, look at him. He's just a rabid dog. Makes no sense. And when you look at the facts, it makes all the sense in the world. And the real truth of the matter is that the Biden administration threw all American citizens under the bus. And they did that to get the votes. And eventually those votes would translate into federal. And you'd have a government that would always be theoretically bound to the Democrats who made this all available. And it was a pay-to-play scheme. It was the biggest scam. The biggest scam ever perpetrated on the United States and its citizens was right here. And this is going to be exposed. And it is being exposed. And I can't see the Democrats that voted for this and we're all behind it. A lot of them probably are not going to run for election again. They're just going to say, and they're going to let a new breed come in. Because there's no way people will recover from this. Democrats or Republicans that were behind all this, they will never recover. And believe me when I say that this will come out. When this money runs out of our budget program and we start fighting again over this in 6 months, that will be the beginning of the midterm season. And you wait to see what's going to come out. And your Schiffs and Pelosi's and Waters and Greens and the Sanders, they're not going to survive. I'm telling you that you're going to have all these people screaming, this is the end of democracy, they're getting rid of us. Yeah. No, that is democracy. That is full democracy that Trump was elected. That the Congress turned red and the Senate turned red. Was full democracy in action. And Democrats hate that. They scream about democracy. They hate democracy. And they prove it all the time. We're smarter than you. We know what's best for you. No, we already thought about it. You're stupid. You don't know anything. We know what's best for you. Yeah. America has woken up. And you talk about being woke? That was the last thing any of these stupid morons should have tried to do. You woke a dragon. You woke a monster. That should have just been fed some food and petted and put back to sleep. Oh, yeah, everything's all right. Go back to sleep and rub its tummy and it goes to sleep. But instead you kicked it. And then you tried to shove something up its ass. Yeah. Now you pay. And you will pay dearly. And you have, well, some of you know what's coming down the road for you. I don't know how Schiff can't be wearing Depends. Schumer, he has a relationship with Trump. Be it a love-hate relationship, it's a relationship. And I think really Trump's hatred of Nadler, like I said, goes back to business dealings that you couldn't do anything in Brooklyn, construction-wise, without. And Nadler was right there. But that was Brooklyn. That's how it was run. Still is run that way. So, but it was just that Trump never liked being told what the deal was going to be. He always told them what the deal was going to be. He didn't like it the other way around. And if the Democrats can get past that and go, yes, Mr. President, you can do this. And I'd like to talk to you about achieving that, but just taking a little bit different direction. Are you willing to hear me out? Because we can help you get there and make it less painful for you. And we could still go over to our people and it's less painful for us. So if it's less painful for us, then it's going to be less painful for you. And that President Trump understands. And he respects that. Now, you'll have to be able to say, when he goes, no, that's a horrible idea. I don't like it. And why should I even have to deal with you? I'll get it. I'll force it through. And that's when the negotiation starts. And the old thing with horse trading. You're going to take 9 good horses. I'm going to sell you 10. One of them is going to go to the glue factory. If you want to do that. Or you can take that horse and go around the neighborhood and have kids ride it for 50 cents. And the old nag is still producing for you. But that's up to you. You can take the $50 at the glue factory, or you can make $500 a year from it, walking around a yard. You feed it some carrots, some food, and you let it live out its life. Still got 10 horses. So, That is what the Democrats have to do. And they have to come down to it, and they're going to have to live with the ego because they've tried. They thought they had him in 2019. And they thought they had him in 2020. And they thought they had him in 2021. And they thought they had him in 2022 and 23 and 24. And now he's the president. Trump loves to fight. And you don't want to give him too much without a fight. He likes to think he earned it. So you let him earn it. And you work with him. And when he comes this way, you got to go that way. But you got to realize he's going to get a punch or two in there. But you could also do it when no one gets punched. But egos get in the way. And you have ruffled this guy's ego. And I'd like to think that he's a big enough guy to go, I'll listen to you. Not promising you a damn thing. But I'm going to listen to you. Don't waste my time. Get to the point and make it make sense. And he'll just cut you off. Done. We're done. That's it. You had your time. You missed your mark. Out the door. Or he'll go back to that. What are you discussing over there? That's possible. All right. Let me think about it. And then all of a sudden, you get a phone. Hey, I thought about it. And yeah, I think, listen, I want to do this over here. And you guys are fighting me tooth and nail over here. And, the art of the deal. You Democrats just don't read what's in front of you. You are so used to getting your own way. And that, any party, anyone that gets that way after a while, well, no, what are you doing fighting with me? You know who you're dealing with? And you let egos get in your way, where you should have just not done that. And you got to resist going there. And some of you are too far gone. Your Schiffs, your Pelosi's, your Nadlers, your Greens, your Waters, Pocahontas, too far gone. Now he'll respect someone like Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders says exactly what he says is what he says. And Trump says, well, all right, it's like a contract. The words are all there. I know what I'm dealing with. These other people, pieces of garbage. And there's a lot of pieces of garbage on the red team too. Lindsey Graham, perfect example. You never know. This guy wiggles. Trying to hold an eel. He's all over the place. He can't be trusted. I can't depend on him. So, I think the time will come that if the Democrats are going to survive, they'll get on Trump's team. And I'm not saying, they're going to pick him up and put him on a throne and carry him around the town. No, I'm not saying that. But I think they'll find that there's easier way to play this guy than to fight him. And Trump, the next 4 years, he doesn't care. He's there. You could have Representative Al Green say, I'm going to impeach him. It's not going to happen. It's not happening this time. It's not. That's gone. Turn the page. That's not happening again. And we're going to make sure that doesn't happen again. We're going to make sure that the House stays red and the Congresses all stay red. We're going to make sure of that. You thought to get out the vote in 2024 was huge for the Republicans. Wait. And you could scream, look at the economy, nothing's going on. 60 days. It took Biden 4 years to destroy 40 years worth of work. You think that's going to be taken care of in 6 or 7 days? Or weeks? Or months? We know what we're in for because we're using common sense. Democrats, get on the bandwagon with us, or you're going to be underneath it and it's going to ride all over you. And personally, I can care less if it rides all over you. I'm just giving you some friendly advice. It's that simple. All right, I'm going to close this out. Today's, this morning one, I said I would keep it under an hour. It's an hour and 8 minutes. This one is probably just as long, and but full of facts. And fact check me all you want with that. I like being fact checked because sometimes I don't know what I don't know. And I think I know it, and I think I read it, and I think I understand it. And I find out now for the rest of the story. All right. I do not let my pride or my ego affect this. This is about getting facts out, making you think. My brain working 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I will try to slow it down to 55 for a lot of you. I'll get it down to 55 miles an hour, but it's not meant to work that way. So sometimes things happen during the deceleration process. But I try to get my facts. I do have my opinions. You know what opinions are. But I use facts to base those opinions. So unless my facts were wrong, where then my opinion could be wrong, I'm willing to listen. But if you're going to argue facts with me, I'm not having that conversation with you. Because the facts are the facts. And you can tell me your facts are wrong, and I'll go and I'll look, and then if they're wrong, I'll have that conversation with you. But if I know I'm right, you ain't budging me. And I'm not going to debate facts with you. Or at least the facts that I have stated here to base my opinion. And those are always on facts. I don't use opinion on this thing. And when I do, when I say this is an opinion piece, this is just me saying this now to you, I let you know that that's an opinion piece. Just like Democrats, I'm telling you, I'm helping you here. That's my opinion on what you need to do. But it's based on facts. So I think it's pretty good. I got some pretty credible references to go with those opinions. So, all right. As always, prayers, they do work. Give to a charity if you can give. You go to that charity. Don't let that charity come to you, because I always worry when someone comes knocking. I'll go to that charity that I know of. Don't become a victim helping victims. Doesn't help anyone then, except the criminals. You have a safe evening, and I'll try to get this out the door tonight. I can't guarantee it because I'm not going to edit this piece at all. It's going out raw. And that should take 2 or 3 hours off me editing and putting in stuff and going, ooh, that's terrible. And with that, I'm going to say good night as I fade to black.